Hey, let's talk about Jerry Lawler a little more. We know him these days as the king, but when he first gets going, he was not the king. As I understand it, that story came around a little later, thanks to a fellow named Bobby Shane. What can you tell us about that story and how Lawler became the king?
Yeah, Bobby Shane went off to Australia, and he was the king of wrestling. And look, there's been, I'm certainly people are going to say, oh, there was a king in Texas or there's a king in San Francisco. But Bobby Shane, working in the Atlanta territory, and my dad would go down and book and had a relationship and through the years. But, the story goes that, and Lawler had done some shots down there, but when he left, they had a conversation and, you got to remember, this is 72, 73, 74. There was another king in town, and I'm talking about Memphis, and that'd be Elvis Aaron Presley, the king of rock and roll. So Memphis has had some royalty down there. So the king of wrestling became Jerry Lawler, and man, oh man, did that moniker stick, and did he truly, I guess you could say, fulfill it. Because I mean, it was amazing how through the years how he wrapped that into promos, and I might get people to this day. He morphed into it, but yeah, the King Jerry Lawler was, I guess you could say, knighted from King Bobby Shane.
And then one day he just shows up rocking a damn crown, right? I mean, just out of nowhere, he was the king.
I love it. And very similar to that's keep that bad boy on, man. That is beautiful throughout the episode.
It is our Jerry Lawler episode. So
let me ask you, is that from the King?
The King has a guy in Tennessee who makes them. I don't know if I should say his name on the air, but you know who I'm talking about. He made this one for me.
Yeah, so that is a King. That's what I was saying. Lawler,
we have different head sizes. I could not wear his, as you might imagine.
Point being, that is a true, authentic.
Yeah, it's the real deal. Yeah, that's like his style. Now it's not ring used. That's what I normally collect. But I wanted to be an asshole and wear one around the house.
You can't have a ring used one and wear that with you and Megan doing the wild thing. You got to have one that stays on.
Can you imagine? That nothing happening Pondwater Dave, right?
That good for nothing hit from Mississippi, who's transplanted it down over in Texas. Yeah, I know.
The worst.
I speak fondly of Pondwater.
Do you know that he had relations with his wife wearing wrestling gimmicks?
Shut the front door.
Now, I thought that happened on the road with the boys back in the day, with super fan ladies. I get it. They wanted to, yeah, okay. But so I was like, all right, well, I guess so, And then as he kept telling the story, I realized the gimmick he was wearing was one of my flare robes. It was my property he was using to do this in my own house. After I went to bed, he came down in the studio, grabbed a robe, took care of some business. That robe is no longer here. I've sold it. And of course, he's like, well, Flair did. And I was like, I don't want to think. What are we doing?
Conrad, can I ask you a serious question?
Yeah.
Do you think he blew up when he had
I love you for that. Every now and again, we'll do some inside stuff that's just for me and you, and there was one. Listen, I loved the King evolution. I mean, it is interesting to think, I've been talking about this a lot lately with some of my friends. What if this one thing changed? The big whole what if scenario. Like, what if, Shawn would have been at WrestleMania 13? Who would Austin have worked? It wouldn't have been a double turn. You know what I mean? Like, what if Triple H wouldn't have been in the doghouse from the curtain call and Austin didn't win King of the Ring and he doesn't wind up working Jake and he doesn't say Austin 316?
Yep.
So in that same line of thinking, it's hard to even imagine what Lawler's career would have looked like without the King, right? Like without the crown.
So doing the research and looking at, shout out D, good job. Because, and I've read the research on this a couple of times, but it occurred to me on the elliptical this morning, Conrad, when you take everything in, what's the word? Serendipity? I don't know if that's the right word.
Yeah.
Just there are unique set of circumstances that I don't believe in coincidences, only convergences. But when you think about the timing of everything, and that fate or whatever it may be between Jarrett and Jerry Lawler, the timings of their career, the timing of Fargo really not wanting to do full time, but he was by far the biggest box office attraction. Had Lawler come out along 7-8 years before, Fargo wasn't going to be ready to give up his seat. If Lawler had come around 7-8 years later, Fargo had been done, retired. The timing of him having the top baby face, literally wanting to knight a good buddy of him. My dad, burning and going, and Roy Welch keeping him kayfabe booker, and then it came out that he was the booker, and my dad wasn't the guy who really wanted to wrestle day in and day out. He loved booking. He loved the business component of it. So we'll call it, my dad, the producer, if you will, and how they hit it off creative and the yin and the yang of their personalities. There's several things throughout Lawler's career that you can't put your thumb on. Him being called the king. And look, if Bobby Shane hadn't have said, hey man, I'm going to go take this Australia gig, it's red hot and I'm going over there, that might not have happened. The Fargo thing, my dad booking. And we're going to get into a couple of other situations throughout Lawler's career that when you put it all together, you just go, hey man, what a charmed, beautifully timed career. It's really, really cool to take a step back and look at a snapshot. And that's where, when I start thinking about all of that, how Lawler treated me. He at times, he treated me like a buddy. At times, he was very stern with me and let me know. He also had some compassion from time to time because he knew how hard my father was on me. He also had a passion for this business and the things he taught me. That photo right there taken by Jim Cornette back at Louisville Gardens, probably 81, 82. And the night we took that, who would ever thought all these years later, I'm sitting down doing a podcast, but there are some unique set of circumstances. Lawler, we're going to get into a Handsome Jimmy Valiant deal, a Bill Dundee deal. I mean, Lord, my father and Lawler, they're 60, 77, 76, 77, 78, their time in the ring together. And where my dad had moved into the top babyface in the territory, but him being more willing to, I'm going to keep Lawler hot, not worry about my in-ring career, just all the things that happened. But man, oh man, he drew nothing but money in Memphis.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson here to tell you a little more about what adfreeshows.com is all about. Get early, ad-free access to more than a dozen of your favorite wrestling podcasts every single week, starting at just $9. That's less than 20 cents an episode each month. And yes, you can listen to them all directly through Apple Podcasts or your regular podcast apps. How easy is that? Ad-free shows also has thousands of hours worth of bonus content and docuseries like Title Chase, Eric Fires Back, Conversations with Conrad, and The Insiders. Plus new series like The Book with David Crockett, Monday Mailbags with Mike Chioda and Nick Patrick, and a whole lot more. And you want to talk about early? You can't get any earlier than listening to the shows live. You can be a part of the live studio audience as we record the podcast. Plus, ride shotgun alongside your favorite childhood heroes for live watch-alongs, Q&As, and other interactive experiences every single month. Come on now, see for yourself what thousands of other wrestling fans from around the world have discovered, that adfreeshows.com is the best value in wrestling. Check it out today, and hey, when you do, the first week is completely free. adfreeshows.com.